Well, the summer 2015 budget very much on the minds of landlords here at the Milton Keynes property meet, including portfolio landlord Alex Caravello. And Alex, you're very, very engaged across quite a wide area of the private rented sector, aren't you? What do you get up to?
Indeed. Well, I've been a private landlord for almost 20 years. I'm also the founding chairman of Milton Keynes Private Landlords Association, and I'm the host here at the Milton Keynes Property Meet.
Fantastic. And just give us a sort of brief overview of your portfolio. How many tenants are you dealing with, etc.?
We've probably got upwards of just over 100 tenants. And as we were talking about earlier, quite a lot of those have been relatively unscathed by rental increases in recent years, but that may all be changing.
Exactly, because my next question was, what is your view on the summer budget 2015 and the tax changes for landlords?
Obviously, it's quite a fundamental change in the way the government is seeing the buy-to-let sector. I suspect it may well be the start of many moves, many attacks on landlords. But fundamentally, obviously, what it's doing is it's aimed at denting the bottom line, the profitability for the private landlord. And the inevitable effect of that, obviously, is that those extra tax burden is going to need to be redistributed, and essentially it's going to be redistributed to our customers, our tenants. So it's sort of another example of government taking wanting to take a financial bite, I think, out of the private rental sector, which ultimately is just going to hurt private tenants.
Indeed, and this is what we've been saying in our campaign, is that we do need to engage tenants in what's happening because it will affect them. And in fact, you are a prime example of a landlord that is already taking steps to counter the tax changes. What have you been doing?
Well, since the credit crunch started, we have a lot of long-term family tenants, and from the start of the credit crunch, from about late 2008, I was writing to tenants to say that we've been able to restructure the finance for the business, take advantage of lower interest rates, and whilst the other myriad of costs that inevitably go up year upon year that we can't control, the biggest cost that we could control was the amount of mortgage interest that we were paying. So by taking advantage of lower rates, we systematically just before Christmas, in fact, every year we write to our tenants and say, you'll be pleased to know that we're not implementing any rent increases next year. Thankfully, we didn't write to tenants last year because I think suspected that with interest rate increases, this might be the year where rents would have to start going up. But of course, that hasn't happened yet. It will probably happen quite soon. But the biggest danger on the horizon for us in terms of cost increase is obviously this tax burden. And so actually from last month, we started writing to tenants to let them know that whether outside of their fixed term period, that rents will be increasing. And we aim to be increasing rents by 5 or 6% a year now for the foreseeable future to counter this tax increase. So it'd be nice if it didn't happen. Perhaps we'll get away with perhaps just 1 or 2 rent increases over the next 5 or 6 years. But we'll wait and see.
Have you had any reaction from your tenants about this notification of rent rises?
We've had some feedback. I'll use that word with my tongue firmly in my cheek. I was very careful in writing to them. So, that we have written to you in previous years to let you know that there won't be a rent increase. I explained to them the reasons why this is happening. I did explain to them that it's actually not been passed into law just yet, so it may not happen. But I wanted them to be aware that rents are going to need to go up. Market rents have gone up quite substantially since the beginning of the credit crunch, and we've sort of lagged behind on that. So it was inevitable they would have to start going up. We also wanted to have slow steps increases in our rents. Thinking perhaps 1 or 2% a year, but that's simply just not going to be enough. That might counter interest rate increases, but it's not going to be enough to counter the tax changes. So really the feedback was, well, it's great, thank you ever so much that you've managed to keep our rents at this level for so long. We understand where you're coming from. Is there anything that we can do to stop this? So that's been some great feedback that we've had. We've had a handful of tenants move on in the last few weeks into moving out of the area or into larger properties, and they did comment that they were surprised at how the market had moved on since they've been living in one of our properties, because moving up from a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3 or a 3 to 4, they've noticed quite a marked increase in what they now are paying compared to what they were paying. So that's the general feedback. It's not been overly negative. We've not come under any real criticism from tenants. I think they understand the reasons why we're proposing them. So we've been thankful for keeping them low as possible, but we've also been asked if we can do our best to not increase them by too much. So my only response to that has been, we'll have to wait and see what the government want to do about.
We'll get them to sign the petition, and that's something that we can all do, is sign the petition. Alex has written to his MP as well, something that you can do. You can comment on the finance bill with the relevant committee. It's all on Property Tribes, the action plan that you can take to actually let the government know how landlords and tenants feel about these changes. So thanks very much for joining us, Alex. Very interesting to hear firsthand from you as a portfolio landlord that you've actually already started to put in protocols to deal with this, even though it's not coming until 2017. So great to hear your input. Thank you very much.
Thanks.